for years. We were told to stay silent. We were told that family matters should be handled privately, even when that privacy was being used to cover up public wrongs. But silence doesn't bring healing. The truth does. And sometimes the truth comes with a price tag that reflects the years of stolen labor. You've seen the headlines, you've seen the rumors about Netflix, and you've seen the numbers being thrown around, $10 million. Today, I'm not just addressing the rumors. I'm walking you through the reality of what it takes to reclaim your own life story from an empire that tried to own it. This isn't just about a documentary. It's about justice. It's about ensuring that my wife, Jill, finally has the microphone and the compensation she was denied for decades. If they wanted a reality show, well, we're about to give them the most real episode yet. Let's look at the evidence. I want to start by addressing the photo that's been circulating. Yes, that was us. And yes, we were at a meeting that could very well change the trajectory of how the public understands the Duggar family story. When we walked into that building, the atmosphere was very different from the production meetings Jill was dragged to as a child. Back then, she was a prop, a silent participant in a contract she never signed. This time, she walked in as a partner. She walked in with legal counsel, me, and a team that understands the gravity of what she has to say. We weren't there to beg for airtime. We were there to negotiate terms for intellectual property that belongs to Jill, her life, her memories, and her perspective. The rumors of a deal are flying. And while I can't disclose the fine print of ongoing negotiations, I can tell you that the days of Jill Dillard being a passive character in someone else's script are over. We are taking control of the narrative, and we are doing it on the biggest stage possible. People have asked, why Netflix? Why not a book or a podcast? The answer is reach and impact. We aren't interested in just telling a story for a niche audience. We are interested in dismantling a system that operates in the dark. Streaming platforms offer a level of creative freedom that cable networks like TLC never could. TLC was beholden to advertisers and a specific family-friendly brand image that required sanitizing the truth. A documentary on a platform like Netflix allows for the raw, unpolished reality to be shown without commercial breaks or artificial cliffhangers. Furthermore, this is about documentation. We want a permanent record of what happened, accessible to millions, so that the history of this family cannot be rewritten by those with the most money. It's a strategic move. If you want to correct a lie that was broadcast to the world, you have to broadcast the truth even louder. One of the key points we address in this new project is the concept of volunteer work within the family business. For years, Jill and her siblings were classified not as employees, but as volunteers or talent under their father's management company. From a legal standpoint, this was a sophisticated way to bypass child labor laws and ensure that the revenue stream flowed to one single point, the head of the household. Jill worked countless hours, filming, doing interviews, promoting books, under the impression that she was just helping the family ministry. But when you look at the tax returns and the contracts, it wasn't a ministry, it was a media corporation. Recovering the value of that stolen labor is complicated, but this new deal is a step toward retroactively compensating her for the work she did from 14 to 26. It's not greedy to ask to be paid for 20 seasons of television. It's basic employment law. When we approached the negotiation table this time, the dynamic was fundamentally different. In the past, contracts in the Duggar world were often verbal agreements, vague promises, or documents signed under duress without proper legal counsel. I've seen the paperwork from those early TLC years. It was designed to protect the production company and the head of the family, leaving the actual talent, the children, completely exposed. As a lawyer, my primary duty here was to ensure that history did not repeat itself. We went through every clause of this Netflix agreement with a fine-tooth comb. We weren't just looking at the financial compensation, although that was a major factor. We were looking at editorial control, ownership of footage, and specific protections regarding how Jill's story would be framed. We refused to sign anything that gave the network the power to manipulate the timeline or create false drama for ratings. This contract is ironclad. It explicitly states that Jill has the final say on sensitive topics regarding her own trauma. It's the kind of legal protection she should have had when she was 19 but better late than never. This isn't just a media deal, it's a legal precedent for how reality stars should be treated. Let's address the number that everyone is fixated on, $10 million. To the average person, that sounds like an astronomical, perhaps even greedy sum. But you have to understand the context of what was taken. The Duggar family show generated hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue over the course of nearly 2 decades. Jill was a primary face of that franchise. Her wedding, the birth of our children, her most vulnerable moments, these were the highest rated episodes in the network's history. Yet, for the vast majority of that time, she saw 0 cents of that revenue. When you calculate the unpaid wages, the residuals, she never received the damages for emotional distress, and the sheer value of her intellectual property, $10 million, is actually a conservative estimate of what she is owed. This deal isn't a lottery win. It is a settlement. It is an attempt to balance the scales of a ledger that has been in the red for 20 years. We aren't apologizing for securing our family's future with money that was earned through Jill's own sacrifice. If the empire was built on her back, it's only right that she takes a piece of the foundation with her when she leaves. We are fully aware that this announcement has likely triggered a flurry of activity at the big house. I anticipate the cease and desist letters. In fact, I'd be surprised if they haven't already been drafted. Jim Bob has a long history of using litigation or the threat of it to silence dissenters. He operates on fear. He relies on the assumption that his children are too poor or too intimidated to fight back in court. But that strategy doesn't work with us anymore. I know the law. I know the difference between a valid NDA and a contract that is void against public policy. Most of the agreements Jill signed as a young adult could easily be challenged on the grounds of undue influence and lack of independent counsel. We are not afraid of a legal battle. In fact, a courtroom might be the perfect place to finally get everything on the public record under oath. Discovery is a two-way street. If they want to sue us to stop this documentary, they will have to open their own books to prove their case. And I don't think that is a door they want to open. The Amazon documentary, Shiny Happy People, was a necessary introduction. It did an excellent job of explaining the IBLP theology and the broader culture of fundamentalism. Jill was brave to participate in that, but due to time constraints and the scope of that project, it was really just a surface level overview. It connected the dots, but it didn't fully explore the personal cost. This Netflix project is different. This isn't about the history of Bill Gothard. This is about the history of Jill Dillard. We're going to go deep into the specific mechanics of control within her own home. We're going to talk about the buddy system, not just as a quirk, but as a method of parentification. We're going to discuss the specific financial manipulation that kept adult children dependent well into their marriages. Shiny Happy People told you the what and the why. This documentary will tell you the who and the how with a level of detail that hasn't been shared before. There are stories Jill has kept locked away for her entire life that she is finally ready to release. One of the things I realized early on, looking at this from a forensic perspective, is that the IBLP wasn't just a church, it was a multi-level marketing scheme. It was a business model disguised as a ministry. The structure relied on a constant influx of recruits, families who would buy the materials, attend the seminars, and pay their income up the chain. The Duggar family became the ultimate billboard for this product. Jim Bob wasn't just a follower, he was a top-tier distributor of the ideology. By selling the image of a perfect family, he increased the value of the IBLP brand and in turn his own standing within it. We need to call it what it is, financial exploitation. The children were the labor force that manufactured the product, but they held no equity. Understanding this economic reality is crucial to understanding why leaving was so difficult. It wasn't just leaving a faith, it was leaving a corporate structure that had total control over your housing, your food, and your reputation. We are going to expose the ledger of that business line by line. One of the non-negotiables in this entire process was the privacy of our children. We have learned the hard way what happens when you raise children in front of a lens. Israel, Samuel, and Frederick are not content, they are children. In the old days, the camera was just another member of the family. It was there at the breakfast table, in the schoolroom, and even in the hospital. That level of intrusion normalizes a lack of boundaries that can take a lifetime to repair. We made it very clear to the production team. This story is about Jill's past, not our children's present. You will not see our boys used as B-roll to pad out an episode. You won't see their private moments broadcast for public consumption. We are breaking the cycle of commodifying childhood. It is possible to tell a compelling story without sacrificing the anonymity of the next generation. We are protecting them in a way Jill was never protected. They will grow up knowing their value comes from who they are, not from their TV ratings. This distinction is vital to us as parents and as Christians. I want to be realistic about the toll this project takes. Sitting in a chair for 8 hours a day and dissecting the most traumatic moments of your life is not entertainment. For Jill, this is grueling work. Every time she recounts a memory about the IBLP teachings or the abuse she suffered, she is essentially reliving it. We have built in safeguards for this production. We have scheduled breaks, we have therapeutic support on standby, and we have the absolute right to stop filming at any moment. Unlike the TLC days where the producers would push and push and push until they got a tearful reaction shot, this environment is one of consent. But even with those protections, the emotional cost is high. There are days when she comes home completely drained. We often have to take a step back and ask, is this worth it? And the answer she always back to is yes. She's willing to pay that emotional price because she knows that her silence was far more expensive. She is doing this for the girl. She used to be the one who didn't have a voice. The reaction within the family has been mixed, to say the least. Publicly, you see a united front of silence from the big house, but privately, the text threads are very active. There is a group of siblings who are quietly supportive. They are watching what we do very closely because, in a way, we are the test case. If we can successfully stand up to Jim Bob and the IBLP machine without being destroyed, it gives them hope. They want to see the truth come out, even if they aren't in a position to speak it themselves yet. Then, of course, there are those who are still deeply entrenched in the system. They view this documentary as an attack on their faith and their father. We've been accused of being bitter, of being unforgiving, or of causing division. But truth is by nature divisive. It separates light from darkness. We don't hold it against them. We know the pressure they are under to conform. We are keeping the door open, but we aren't going to lower the volume just to make the family reunions less awkward. A lot of people have asked how we can legally do this given the non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, that are famous in the Duggar world. Here is the legal reality. An NDA is not a blanket immunity shield for abuse or illegal activity. Furthermore, many of the documents Jill signed were executed when she was effectively under the undue influence of her father and employer. There is a strong legal argument that contracts signed by young adults who have been conditioned to obey without question and who were denied independent legal counsel are unenforceable. We have reviewed every scrap of paper she ever signed. We found the loopholes. We found the clauses that are void against public policy. Jim Bob might think he has them locked down with ink and paper, but the law frowns upon contracts that are unconscionable. We are navigating this very carefully, but we are confident. We aren't breaking the law. We are exposing how the law was manipulated to keep victims silent. If they want to test that in court, we are ready to make that case law. The biggest difference between this Netflix deal and anything Jill has done before is the word control. In reality TV, the talent is usually a puppet. The editors decide who is the villain and who is the hero. They chop up sentences to make you say things you didn't mean. This time, Jill is a collaborator. She isn't just the subject, she is a producer. That means she has input on the final cut. She can look at a scene and say, no, that's not accurate context, and they have to listen. This shifts the power dynamic entirely. It ensures that the story isn't sensationalized for the sake of drama, but is told with the nuance it deserves. For the first time, the world will see Jill not as she was edited to be, but as she actually is. Gaining that creative control was harder than negotiating the money, but it was essential. We aren't trading one captor for another. We are partnering with a platform to amplify her true voice. I want to address the word that gets thrown around the most in these situations, betrayal. In the Duggar family culture, Telling the truth about something negative is often equated with betrayal. If you speak up about abuse, you are betraying the family. If you ask to be paid for your work, you are betraying the ministry. We reject that definition entirely. True betrayal is what happened to Jill, not what is being done by Jill. Betrayal is a father taking money that belonged to his children. Betrayal is an institution covering up crimes to protect its reputation. What we are doing now is not betrayal. It is accountability. We are simply holding a mirror up to the actions that were taken against us. If the reflection is ugly, don't blame the mirror. We have spent years trying to resolve these issues privately. We went through the proper channels. We tried mediation. We were met with stonewalling and manipulation. Taking this story public was the last resort, but it was the only way to break the stronghold of silence. Refusing to be a victim anymore is not an act of malice. It is an act of survival. If Jim, Bob, and Michelle are watching this, and I suspect they are, my message is simple. You had a duty of care. As parents and as guardians, your primary legal and moral obligation was to protect your children, not your brand. You failed in that duty. You prioritized the rules of a cult over the safety of your daughters. You prioritized the accumulation of wealth over the financial independence of your sons. This documentary is the result of those choices. Every interview, every revelation, every painful moment we share on screen is a direct consequence of the environment you created. We are not doing this to hurt you. We are doing this to heal from you. We hope that one day you can acknowledge the harm that was done, not just in a PR statement, but in genuine repentance. Until then, we will continue to build our own lives based on truth and transparency, far away from the shadow of the big house. The control you once held is gone. It ended the moment we signed our own names on the dotted line. So, what does life look like after this? The financial aspect of this deal is significant, and I won't pretend it isn't. For the first time in our lives, we have genuine security. This money pays off the law school debt. It secures a home where our boys can run in the backyard without fear of paparazzi drones. It creates a trust for their education so they can choose their own paths, whether that's college, trade school, or something else, without being financially coerced into a family business. But beyond the money, this deal buys us freedom. It buys us the ability to say, no, we don't have to do interviews. We don't have to sell products on Instagram to pay the bills. We can focus on our careers, my legal practice, and Jill's advocacy work without the pressure of the spotlight. This documentary is a bridge to a normal life. It's the final transaction that closes the account on Jill Duggar, reality star, and opens the account for Jill Dillard, free woman. That peace of mind is worth more than any check Netflix could write. While the story is personal to us, we know it resonates with thousands of others. The feedback we got after Shiny Happy People was overwhelming. Victims of high control groups, survivors of abuse, and people who have been exploited by their families reached out to say, "My too." This documentary is for them. We are using this platform to advocate for legislative changes regarding child performers and statute of limitations reform. We want to make sure that what happened to Jill cannot happen to another child on reality TV. We are working with organizations that support survivors of spiritual abuse. If we can use the wreckage of our past to build a shelter for others, then the pain wasn't in vain. Justice isn't just about punishing the wrongdoer. It's about empowering the survivor. Jill is finding her voice not just for herself, but for every girl who was told to keep sweet and stay silent. That is the true legacy we want to leave. I believe the Duggar era of reality television is officially over, and frankly, it should be. The industry has changed. Audiences are smarter now. They understand that unscripted family shows often hide deep dysfunction. We are hoping that our story serves as a cautionary tale for the industry. Networks need to be held accountable for who they platform and how they treat the minors in their care. You cannot just put a camera in a house with 19 kids and claim you have no responsibility for their welfare. The contract we signed with Netflix includes specific clauses about ethical filming standards. We want to set a new bar. If you're going to tell real stories, you have to treat the people in them like human beings, not commodities. The days of the freak show family format are numbered. People want authenticity, not exploitation. And if we can help drive that shift, we will. This documentary represents the closing of a massive chapter in our lives. We have spent over a decade defined by the Duggar name and the Duggar drama. This project is our way of putting a period at the end of that sentence. Once this airs, we don't plan on being professional reality stars anymore. We aren't looking for a season 2. We aren't looking for a spin-off. We are telling the whole story one time the right way, and then we are walking away. We want to fade into normalcy that we were never allowed to have. There is a tremendous amount of relief in knowing that soon everything will be out in the open. No more secrets, no more fear of leaks, just the truth standing on its own. We are ready to turn the page and start writing a new book where the only authors are Derek and Jill. In the legal world, everything builds toward the verdict. You present the evidence, you make your arguments, and you wait for the judgment in the court of public opinion. The verdict on the Duggar family has been shifting for years. But for us, the only verdict that matters is the one we reach for ourselves. We have judged the system we were raised in and found it wanting. We have judged the actions of those who were supposed to protect us and found them negligent. And ultimately, we have looked at our own lives and decided that we are worth fighting for. This documentary is our closing argument. It is the comprehensive, irrefutable proof of what it takes to survive a cult and come out the other side with your marriage, your faith, and your sanity intact. Thank you for listening to the evidence. The case is now submitted. We are moving on